Só para dizer que eu te amo.
Também te amo.
All right. Oh, let me switch on my camera. Yes, here. Okay. And in fact, hang on just a sec. What else can I do? I'm sure I saw a bubble with some, dialogue in there. Let me make sure it's not. It's recording something. Is it recording? Does it show up as? Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, some silly dialogue. Dismiss me. What the hell is a timer for? Yeah, I actually do. I'll just give me a. Oh my gosh! Yeah, bread. Yeah, let it rise for another hour. Alexa, add another hour. Why does it say end meeting? Wait, it says end meeting. All right, so I'm going to hit. So end meeting for all. I'm going to hit that button. I'm going to hit the cancel button here, and I hope it doesn't kill the meeting or anything. Okay, good. All right, did the right thing. If you, even if it's a reputed company, or things that lots of people are using, you find that you can't take certain things for granted, right? So certain things that you would intuitively expect. Because I don't want to go through the trouble of setting up this meeting once again, or or posting an announcement saying, hey, I'm sorry that meeting is gone. I don't know how this thing works actually. Maybe it's the same URL. Okay, now it's full screen and I can see all of you guys. Welcome to class. Hey, Anne, Beckett, all of you guys. So yeah, cool. So we could have an interesting discussion right here. I actually do want to talk about Mandar's very nice post that I really appreciated. Which shows a lot of evidence of some deep thought that has gone into it. And so I felt it shouldn't just be dismissed off with dropping names or terms. And especially we shouldn't be using words in 2B or at the 2B level, like linear or quadratic, if we don't know the context or don't understand fully the context in which they are supposed to be used. Because if we think like Mandar did, and Mandar, you should feel free to correct me. I'm going to try and follow your train of thought here. So he was not getting at whether the pattern there. He wasn't getting at how long it's going to take to calculate something, right? So his question was actually targeted at the very heart of computer science, if you think about it, right? Because his question has a hidden question in there, which you can look at if you peer long enough. He's asking, is that part computable or not? Yes, meaning that can I get an automaton to do it instead of having to focus human energy? Yes, that is the root question there. Because if you can have an automaton generate that for you, no matter how you, because extreme bit is just a bitwise representation, but who says it has to be bitwise? It could even be a continuous function, right? But let's not go down that road, right? Because we could still consider many different bitwise functions, and maybe there is a bitwise function that actually approximates a pixel, pixmap, right? An image which encodes our traditional mathematical symbols, for the closed form representation for the calculation of pi, e, or anything, right? So it may take 1,000,000 years, right? But the heart of it is that we don't care, right? As humans, we don't care if something. So that is what we mean when we say is it computable or not, right? So that is and this is a question that typically we have. With a conversation typically we have with students that are approaching grad work, or or interested enough in computer science to start looking at some of the bare metal right? Because it kind of borders on information theory and what is computable and what is not. What is the distinction between, where is information? Where, because essentially, what does it mean? What does it mean? Is it okay if I, blabber on like that? Because, technically this is not a formal class, right? Because I'm, it's a courteous club, but you can feel free to cut me off, and I can send you, I can assign the class over to you to talk with each other. Except not about quests, okay? But I did want to spend a few minutes to talk about Mandar's observation here. What was I talking about? Right, whether it's computable or not. Whether it's computable or not, right? And so as humans, what we're asking is that, is there a process by which I can relegate that to some brainless machine, right? Calculating it out for me to an arbitrary level of precision, right? I don't care. Because essentially what we want is essentially everything that is predictable, we want to make it as predictable as possible so that we don't have human involvement. Yes, because even if you look at our lives, everything we do, right, we want predictability out of things, right? Machines, right? If a machine breaks down, or a machine behaves unpredictably, inconsistent with our human expectations, we get annoyed with it, right? So we are looking for predictability in people and things, and that comes from a root cause inside of humans saying that we just want to be lazy, right? We want things to do our work for us. And that is the insight that is also behind a great deal of mathematical and computational insights, in my opinion, because computability is essentially that, right? Computability says, all right, now have we distilled the process of generating whatever that procedure, whatever that, sequence is, whether it's a repeating pattern or even, a very valid second but incorrect contender, which, Mandar pointed out, was some random digits of pi. Yes, right? And it's very tempting to say that, right? Because once someone throws you at a random position in pi, right, there is no way you can tell where you are, because you can't tell what the next digit is going to be, right? However, the entire sequence of pi is predictable, it's computable. Right? So pi is not actually a contender, because I can actually say in limited finite media what pi is or E is, right? So the question really is, what is it computable or not, right? Not how fast is it computable. So in other words, can I get an automaton to do it? And that is also the border of, it's not the border, right? Because all of it boils down to the same thing, is the reason what we want to make things predictable is that predictable things contain zero information for us. Now, do you agree with that or not? Right? Because this is also really the heart of, all science itself, right? All human knowledge too, right? If we just sit down and think about it, this is the conclusion that every person gets to, right? Is if something is predictable, there is no information in it. Yes? Because I know it's going to happen anyway. Yes? Yes or no? Right? So I only have information when something is unpredictable, when the uniform distribution has been destroyed, has been perturbed, right? When when it's not a calm sea anymore, but there are certain ripples, right? Then there's information, because otherwise there's no damn information anywhere. So information is actually contained in these peaks and valleys, not in the flatness, right? And so technically, and I don't want to go into the theory of this, because that kind of borders on graduate work. I don't know why it's graduate, because all of this is within your reach, really, because if you look at information, you can actually quantify it very, very nicely in a number of different ways that agrees with our intuitive notions as well as mathematical notions of what information is. If we just say that, let's find a quantity, right? A mathematical expression. Maybe it's e to the x, sine x, log x, the negative of that, or maybe even if it's a complex polynomial, right? It could be a complex polynomial or a complex exponential expression, right? Which we can use, where was I going with that? Which we can use to say, if I plug in a certain value of x, it kind of agrees with my intuition of how much information there is. Okay, so after having exhaustively enumerated in our minds and emptied it of all possible viable candidates, like the digits of pi, right? Now I'm not saying digits of pi, but we say Shannon, basically, right? He formalized this whole notion at Bell Labs, I think in his master's thesis or something, right? So he basically said, the function that basically satisfies every single notion we have about information is the negative log of the probability, right? Because if the notion, if the item is completely predictable, there is zero information in it, right? Whereas if the item has, total unpredictability, right? Then it has infinite information, because anything we get to know is valued, is like, invaluable. Yes, well, it's the opposite of in right. So if you look at it, the log curve, right? In fact, the negative log curve agrees with our intuitive notion of how much information is contained in any kind of distribution other than uniform, right? Because if it's uniform, we agree that there's no information there, right? Do you want me to talk about this shit, right? Because this is all information theory, totally irrelevant probably to 2B. I don't have to do that. You could basically just talk about your projects. I shouldn't steal Munda's thunder, as as it were. Really, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that it was a very nice post, right? And thank you for making that. And I hope it's not just our class, right? Even future students might actually pick up on that and say interesting things. Because seeds like this, whether it's on Reddit or Stack Overflow, because there's, if you look at all of these forums, there's like, hundreds of trillions of these seeds. Yes, everybody makes a post, right? So at some point, there's going to be intelligent discussion starters like that, juicy morsels that are going to be hidden in a sea of trash, right? And humans can't sift it out, I can tell you, right? There's upvotes and downvotes. It can only do so much, right? So we will have a system at some point which can actually fish out the real gems from the sea of trash, right? And it'll happen within the next 10 years or so, right? So don't care if humans are going to upvote it and downvote it. Just throw it in there, right? And let the system figure it out, right? Because we will have a very good model of the human mind and what tickles our fancy, right? What kind of articles we actually are interested in, right? And then the system can do an independent search of the internet using that model and say, well, this article, which actually had no upvotes at all, and was made by some unknown guy, right? One of 5 posts he or she made, right? I've got a link for that, right? And if you'd gone by upvotes, you would never have found it, right? And maybe the system was clever enough to interpolate things in such a way that it found that the model learned that that actually has more bearing to what you actually asked, right? Even now, think about it, right? So everything is happening by leaps and bounds. I can ask Google or Alexa some really cool question, and 5 times out of 10, I get an interesting answer, right? Even if it's wrong, it's probably an interesting answer, right? So think about how many cool things can happen with these things. So I'm very pleased to see these things. So don't worry, even if I don't acknowledge it, because I told you, right? Many of the comments are like, I don't know how long. Like if you make a post, if you make a comment, I see all posts, okay? But if you make a comment on someone else's post and it's more than 4 or 5 days, I don't know. I got to figure out some way, because I can't by default subscribe to every single. I don't know. Reddit doesn't give me that option, okay, for monitoring all activity. Because I don't care. Because I have a phone all the time. I just see, hey, I got an interesting comment. Let me look at it while I'm walking or something like that, right? So I have that option, but I can't get it. So the chances are I may not see it. But I'm saying that you don't have to do that, right? If you make 1 or 2 interesting posts, you're pretty much maxed out on all your points anyway, right? So don't do it for points. Don't do it for me. Don't do it for your friends, your girlfriend or boyfriend or parent or prospective employer too, right? Even though it may have unknown good side effects, who cares, right? But you're going to do it for the system, right? Because it will pick up at some point. Every single human who actually needs to see that post will be shown that post, right? So how many times have you got a very good Facebook recommendation or a Google YouTube recommendation already, right? For exactly the thing that you want to see that you would never ever have seen if you had been looking at what people are saying, right? So it's already starting to happen. And I think that because that's what people are shooting for, right? Because time is the most precious commodity, right? Because people are out there trying to maximize this and that, profit and cash, all that is shit, right? When energy becomes free or whatever it is, there's a surplus, time is going to be the most valuable thing of every single thing, right? So if you can save a few minutes for someone, that's going to be worth so much more, right, than billions of dollars. So I think that if we just focus on building this rock solid system that is basically just going to search, just like Google or people are doing now, right? But it's going to do some intelligent search and do these things. So don't worry about it. So someone is going to come up with that system, right? So we just have to feed it and give it lots of really good gems like this. Just bury it in the sand, as it were. That's really the analogy, isn't it? Because there's sand. And we need sand because if you just present people with truth all the time, they're going to be confused as hell. Yes, so you got to bury the truth, the gems amongst the sand, so that people actually have a moment of great joy, saying, "Hey, that's really cool, I found it," right? Because I went fishing for sand, but I got this ruby here, right? So that's really cool, and so I actually love the way things are shaping up. But from next quarter onwards, I think I'll work it into the syllabus. I think past Reddit should not be consulted, right? And I don't know how. Maybe I'll talk to other people and see if I can get some ideas. And because, well, obviously I can't control Reddit; it's a public forum. But I don't want. See, lots of people. This is the first quarter, I told you, right? Everybody is really trying hard and asking questions and helping each other. And then as the quarters went on, people are helping each other less and saying, well, 2 more days before the freeze, okay, let me get to it, like a math homework or something like that, right? Not really investing in interest or energy, but just getting through it on the last day. And also, I don't even know if they're learning anything, right? So because I can follow their user ID. It doesn't matter, even if you're doing blue all the way through, right? To the end of green. I'm very happy to guide you through outside of 2B, guide you through the class, and then make sure you enroll in 2B and get a freebie or something like that, right? So just do the exams or something. So all of that is possible. Where was I going with that? Yeah. So I think that from next quarter onwards, so I have to say that somehow you only get points, 15 or 20 of those points. Maybe reduce the size of quests, right? Because right now it's 60%. Maybe I'll just make it 50% and say, the remaining points are going to come from my evaluation of these criteria. And one of them is just basically going to be how much help you've given other people or how many interesting discussion starters you have, right? And you're never going to say that. I don't think anyone can argue with that really, because there's so many good examples even just on our sub, right? It doesn't have to be on our sub, right? It could be on Stack Overflow or something else, even in your company blog, as long as it's public and we can all check it out and we have a link, right? That we can check it out. That's fine with us. Well, I shouldn't say us, right? I should only speak for myself, right? So that's all perfectly fine. So I think that, and I think we should just not look at past subreddits at all, right? And even things like, like people in the past have done this, so I'm not going to repeat what they say. It doesn't actually demonstrate that, you just said, I'm very good at following the directions of someone in the past, right? No, but that's not what, instructors are looking for, right? So they want you to say, no, I don't know. I never saw any past posts. I just came and I saw the code and I started coding and I had these problems. Hey, I'm stuck here. Can you help me? Yeah, like a million people have. It's not like any problem we solve. I think every problem we have has a solution. Maybe people don't see it, right? But every problem we face has a solution. And the only reason we keep solving them again and again is because it's solving the problems gives us some sense of some, I don't know, maybe gives us a sense of fleeting happiness, right? So we seem to be addicted to that, and so we like solving problems, and it's essentially a harmless fun at the very least, right? So we just keep doing this, and so I don't know where we were going with that, but essentially all I'm saying is that yeah, we should just feel free to go crazy on the sub and not look at past questions and say, yeah, okay, so yeah, just ask a question. It's a problem I've had. Yeah, well, I know like a million, uncountable million people have had exactly the same problem, right? Maybe in different ways, right? In different contexts, but it's the same problem essentially. So I know there's a solution out there, but I'm not going to ask them because I want to ask the people I know, right? I'm going to talk to humans because I want to know not just the answer, but some kind of thinking behind it that only a human can give me. I don't know. I'm just putting words, right? I'm trying to give you motivations and reasons for not looking at past posts, okay? And I don't know how to enforce that other than, I can change all the quests, but then, it seems like a terrible lot of work that's just gone waste and instead of benefiting people. So let me just see how far I can drive this to value, and then maybe I can let it go. But but I have to somehow enforce that, we should not look at past Reddit posts, and because that's the only way that people will say, yeah, I have a problem, and only like 3 months ago someone had the same problem. Yes, because if you have a problem and say, well, you know what, nobody has this problem except this guy like 17 years ago, so I must be like a really dumbass. Yes, because everybody refers to the same person. But that's not wrong. That's not right. Yes, that's totally wrong. Everybody has a problem, but they all looked up to, so they should say, no, I'm not looking up to anyone, so I'm just going to find the answer myself. Then we actually have a track record, and everybody will feel encouraged to say, well, you know what, like a million other people found the answer, I can also find it. I don't have to look up to that answer. Yeah. So that's why I like these posts. And next quarter, I don't know, if some of you have bright ideas, let me know. But I don't want to change all the quests. I want the history to be there, but we have to somehow and also be, yeah, we'll have alternate pathways for students that find it difficult, right, to do public posts and things like that. That's okay, because we have, as long as we're all friendly bunch of dudes here, right, discussing technology and things like that, I don't have any problems. But we should just feel free to interact as though that's the only batch we have, right? Let's forget about past history and basically imagine that Reddit has some expiry count, right? I could go and delete everything and restart the Reddits. That's possible, right? That seems drastic, right? So yeah, that seems drastic. But besides, I don't have permission, right? Because lots of students may actually be using some of their posts as, I don't know. Yeah, I totally, right? First of all, it doesn't belong to me really, because it belongs to the community, I think. Even though I just moderate it or something like that, but I can go and delete it, and someone's just said, hey, I made this really insightful post, go and check it out, and say, we're hoping that or someone says, hey, yeah, I can, and the link would just show up there. I think, I don't know how it all works, but yeah. Yeah, is that how it works? You make some post on Facebook or something, and that guy deletes the page. Your post is dead. Is that the way it works? Wow. So that, yeah, it's not a great deal of motivation for people to make intelligent posts, right? On walls that they don't own. Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right. So I shouldn't be taking up any more of your time. So if you want to let me go, that's fine, right? I got a bit of time, right? I got another hour before I have to check my bread again. Hey, what time is it? I thought I had a meeting. Well, it's just you guys. Okay. All right. So and it's been a half hour, so I shouldn't take up any more of your time. Why did I keep saying that? So what I'll do is hand over to you. You can ask questions, or basically take off, ask each other, and clarify. I think most of you are probably working on Koala, right? The fourth quest. Don't talk about the quest itself, but a lot of concepts to do with Koala are very important for the midterm. So we're not going to do complexity, I don't think, right? I don't think we're doing program complexity deep dive in by week 6. Are we doing it in 2B? No, I think we only introduce this in 2C, right? The first lecture of 2B is when we start talking about program complexity and things like that. That's really where we get really solid intuition of things like, well, what's linear. Actually, that's not true, right? I'll give you but formally, right? That's where we're supposed to get a solid intuition of linear, quadratic, things like that. But don't that is totally feels like magic. But by, I think, what is it, by week 8 or so, right, we'll actually implement right in class. We'll implement a couple of routines, and I'll actually show you, right, the performances of this one with, as you increase the size of the number of items you have to process, it looks like a parabola, right? But as you increase the number of items you have to process, the other thing that does the same thing, it only goes like a straight line. So at some point, it's going to be better than that. This is a reasonable thing to say, right? Yeah, so like that, right? So we'll develop an intuition for that, so that when you get to C, oh yeah, 2B. I'm thinking you guys are 2A. Sorry. Okay. All right. Cool. Because the crazy thing is, I only have like the 2A lectures, right? The other 2B is supposed to be online, so I never mentally prepared myself to have a class like this. And you guys, and especially since Turkey was in my 2A, just like that. And I keep thinking, oh, this is my 2A class, right? So, but no, this is my 2B class. I'm sorry, if I bored you and all. But hopefully a lot of what I said was relevant and useful to you guys. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, what I can do is just turn it around so I don't cramp your style, right? So I'll just turn it around so you're looking at the tree or something like that, and then you can talk. If you have any questions, you can yank me back, but essentially help each other. And as far as the midterm, just know about trees, okay? You don't have to know about complexity, it's just trees. I think trees is on the midterm, if I'm not mistaken, right? Trees is on the midterm, general trees. Yeah, I don't know, because, yeah, okay, I hope so. All right, so trees, because I have to look at the syllabus, I keep forgetting. Yeah, I had to juggle a few things, right, in the syllabus in response to some things. But essentially, I think you have a little bit more time, right? And always, if there are people that are struggling with a quest and they've been doing some hard work, they don't have to worry about the deadline, okay? It's the only people for whom the freezes will matter are the ones that have basically not put any work in. And they basically try to do it one day before. I don't think, right? Unless you're a master, right, who can code in their sleep, right? Even if you've been coding for 25 years, right? I don't think you can finish the koala quest, right? Reading the spec and doing all of the mini quests in it. Even if it'll take at least 2 hours. I think. I don't know. But for human, right? I think. Because first of all, reading the spec is going to take a little bit of time, and you got to do the tree. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be corner cases, and you got to, because it's not a matter of how good we are, right? It's just a matter of how much. It's like sweeping a room. I don't know, right? Because many rooms are carpeted, so we don't even notice, right? But if you sweep a room or mop it, right? So we know this is these corners, and it's not a matter of how good a sweeper we are. It's a matter of time and effort. So are you just willing to just do it systematically? It's going to take a long time. You got to get all corners, or you can say, I'm going to cut some corners. Yes. And so it's just a matter of time. Yeah, where was it going with that? I'm sorry, I forgot where I was going with that. But essentially, you can ask me a question if you have any doubts. But otherwise, feel free to talk and help each other out. Yeah, koala trees. You just need to be familiar with that. Essentially, just get pointers. The point with trees, lists, all these guys, right, is really to just get you so comfortable with pointers, right? Initially, everybody will have the reaction, just like Anne. Right? So yeah, no, that's perfectly fine, right? Because when you're thrown in the deep end and said, there's a lot of pointers around you. Pointers are like little spears, yes? Because everything is a point. And so you just thrown in the deep end and say there are lots of pointers around you. You're gonna cringe in fear, right? And there's absolutely no way around it. I can tell you, right? If you're going to master in computer science, you got to learn to master the forest, right? You got to learn to walk through that forest of trees, right, where the grass is basically all blades with pointers, right? Like, you could, and there's no way you can go through it. You can fly through it, and the only way to do it is, you walk on it until I get, I don't care, because I know that after a few minor bruises, my feet really are fine. They've adjusted, right? Our heels are thicker than the rest of our body, right? So like that, and we say, we're just gonna do it. I don't care. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to play with pointers and be bitten. I'm going to be bitten a lot of times, so that I say, now I say, well, I've been bitten enough times, and so I've been bitten so many times that every time I've been, so if I'm going to be bitten, the last few times when I was bitten, I said, I'm just going to see what the hell is going to happen anyway. Right? I'm going to let it bite me and see what the hell is going to happen, because every time I've done something in the past, it didn't improve, right? Or because I wasted energy in putting out a fire that I didn't even have to put out a fire, right? So I would say this is what would have happened. Play it out in your head and say, I'm not going to do anything. And then when you do that, after a while, you say miraculously, I don't care now. I can deal with pointers. I can deal with broken things, right? So then you master the art of dealing with pointers. And then you say, I'm fearless among pointers, right? So there is no way you can explore the forest. There's absolutely no way until you've overcome the fear of pointers, right? And throwing you in the middle is basically saying, if you want to go forth into this forest called 2B and 2C and beyond, well, all we need to do is basically the first step is, not the very first step, right? After control structures and, that's all out of the way, right? We just need to say, everything is fine, right? I've got all the mechanics now. I've got my boots on and I can go up, right? One more thing, the final thing I need to get used to is basically the sharpness of the blades of the grass, right? So let me just practice here in this little kiddie pool, right? For, a couple of days, just to get and toughen up my soles. And then I'll venture out in the forest, okay? So just treat it as an opportunity, and don't, if you treat it as a way in which, it's a necessary evil, right? I got to do that before I can get on to the next one, right? It will not help you in your life, right? So then we'll be more focused, or 50% of our work, our energy will be focused on saying, is there a way around it? Is there a way I can go, past the thorny, footpath and back onto secure soil? Okay, so 50% of our brain is going to look at that and consider that as a possibility, right? So you say, no, even if there's a path, what are the chances I would find it? So I'm not going to take it. I'm going to say, what's the worst that can happen? So, and say, I'm going to be bitten, and say, am I going to die? Let me find out, right? What happens to me, right? I'm going to be crushed, right? But how badly am I going to get crushed? So let me find out. So once you do that, you say, yeah, well, okay, well, I've tamed the pointer, right? Now I don't care. And that is an absolutely essential skill to have, right? I'm not even saying C++, okay? The concept of that pointer, that jump, that mental jump, that is what, that quest prepares you for, is to say, I don't care now, whether a node has one pointer or two pointers or many pointers, right? Which you'll actually be doing in 2B, right? So later on, right? So I don't care. I don't care, because I know how to deal with pointers. You can throw one or many at me, or none, right? Because I know so that is the only thing you need, right? Once you need, so you say, give me lots of pointers. So 2B is your great way. Or quest number 4, koala, and use this time from now until the midterm, right? Just focus on pointers. Do everything you can with pointers. Be wrong in myriad ways, right? Break things, quest as much as you can, right? And look at all the changes that your manipulations are making, right? And say, well, you know what, I did this and this happened, right? And connect it, right? Don't say, well, this, and well, it's not the same as the target, so let me try again, right? Never going to work. Okay, but if you say, well, I did this and this happened and this is not the same as the target, why, right? That is really valuable. So and then a lot of people, if they don't see if they don't see that thing there, if they say, well, it's not the same as the target, it's not working, then I'll go to the forums, okay, make a post saying, well, I did that and I'm not passing, okay, and someone gives a tip, or pass post, and we look at that, and we passed it, okay, and there's no evidence that you actually mastered it. And sometimes, even if you do master it based on someone else's post in the past, we should be very careful when we post a message saying, I came, I coded and conquered. We shouldn't exactly say that, obviously, right? This is just a shorthand form of saying that. We got to say it in a way that kind of invites other people to ask us, right? So if we're say it in a wisecrack way, saying, oh, I've done it, I'm the master of these things, right? So it doesn't invite other people to ask you a question. So you got to say, well, I'm willing to reach out. I'm working at the same level as you, right? And people will ask you. Those are the kinds of things that the instructors look for, right? To demonstrate mastery, as opposed to, I know the solution because I looked it up. Does that make sense? Okay, all right, so that's what I'm looking for, okay? That's what I'm looking for. At the end of the day, I want each of you to master the subject, okay? And I want each of you to continue on to CS2C. right? And do all of the red quests. Okay, some of them are intimidating if you look at the forum posts, right? That's why I'm saying it's going to be history, right? Or not history in the sense history, right? I'm going to say in the syllabus, right? If you look at these posts before you do the solve and before you actually have an active discussion, 2C, right? When you go on, where you get credit for all these quests, right? But in 2C, right? I'll say this is a syllabus. If my rubric or instruction or grading criteria for this would be, I'm just going to look at the post and I have a whole bunch of criteria, and one of these is how vocal and helpful, right, or encouraging your posts have been to fellow students. And we have fantastic examples of each one of these. I have pointers, right? So if the student says they don't know, I can also point them, right? These are some of the examples that you can use as templates, right? So I don't have to tell you, you can just look it up, right? So so those are some of the criteria, not just me, right? I'm just being a filter, right? And I hope you appreciate that what you're creating online, right, is your wealth. Okay, doesn't belong to me. You're not doing it for points that I'm going to give you in 3 months of your life, right? And I think I told this in cs2a, right? Everybody thinks that they are the sun, all right, and everybody else is a planet around them, right? And doesn't matter. That could be your friend, lover, or your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is, right? The parent, sibling, child, right? Genetically related in many different ways, right? So they could be clones even, right? But still, they're all near and dear planets. Nobody ever thinks that, I'm not the sun and those are not the planets. Okay, so, but the problem really becomes when you say that, that's what I think, but other people cannot or do not have the right to think that they're also suns, right? Because the truth is that everybody thinks they're a sun, right? Everybody thinks they're a sun and the planets are revolve around them. Yes, that's the truth. Right? That's what everybody thinks, right? So for all practical purposes, every person is basically a singularity in mathematical terms, where the entire universe is born on the event horizon, because it takes infinite time to puncture the event horizon. Did we talk about this before? I have this vague feeling of deja vu. I don't know, but the metaphor is perfect, isn't it? Because if you think of yourself as a singularity, and then the entire universe is born in that event horizon, because the event horizon is basically infinitely thick, although it's like a membrane, because space is infinitely stretched inside of the event horizon. So everything that person sees is in that event horizon. All our observations are in that event horizon. So every single person essentially is a black hole or a singularity. Well, no, I shouldn't be, that's all metaphorical, analogical shit, right? But we shouldn't invest time, right, in talking about meta science and soft science like that, right? So we should respect that for what it is, as an analogy, right? That helps us understand the truth behind, many of these computational things that we deal with every single day, right? And say, this is essentially what we're dealing with. So let's cut to the chase, right? What is the real problem? And let's solve it, and we will just have a blast doing that, right? I know every single problem on earth has been solved like a billion times before. So what do I get by looking up someone else's solution, right? Because every single person along history, millions of years, they've had fun solving that problem by asking people around them, right? And they found a solution and a piece of candy finally, and they buried it, right? And so you found the recipe and the candy, right? Whatever it is, maybe the metaphor is too stretched here. But essentially, the joy is in the finding out, right? Why miss out on the joy and basically just partake on someone else's statement of how delicious the ice cream was when they ate it 15 years ago? Yeah. So just forget about it, right? And then after you've done it, you can make a post, right, on any forum. Right, you can make a post, right? So I came, right? I tried it, and it was really delicious, right? Because these are things and these are places I got lost in, right? The delicious nooks and crannies of computer science. These are the places I got lost in, and there I learned something. I saw some interesting graffiti on the walls, right? Maybe I'll do a VR game, right? So in Oculus, you have interesting graffiti, like in the questing system, right? So with passwords you can earn on. Yeah, maybe I can do that in summer with Unreal. We'll see. Yeah, right. So yeah, so you can just venture and then share your insights. Okay, so, and I think these will all be more valuable than any instruction you can get from me, right? So the best help you can give yourself is always going to be the help that you give yourself. right, is never ever going to be, because you're the sun in every single solar system out there, right? Or everything, a single system out there, you're the sun, everything is orbiting you, right? Some like me might be a comet, right? That, comes very briefly one time and then goes away, right? And maybe others are planets, right? You see, elliptical orbit, very frequently, Mercury and so on and so forth. Yeah, it's just like a family, yes. But then, with the recognition that not only is this a family, but in this family, every single person is a son of their own. And and I think that way, the discussions in the forums will also be far more civil. Well, no, actually, they're far more, right? They're very civil and very nice this way. So I'd just like to be kept this way, right? So maybe it's just a void reminder, right? So I don't even have to. I should be. And this is like preaching to the choir, really. You guys are doing a great job. I'm just paranoid about the last quarter. There was absolutely no activity, and it seemed like nobody was interested in computer science. Everybody was just doing for credit. And so I said, what can I do to revive the interest? Because as long as there's a flame, right? As long as there's some flame, right, there'll be continuity. Or even if I have a thin class, that's okay, right? That will carry on, right? And then otherwise I have to start building it up, and I have to make sure the right 2B students go in there, and 2A to 2B. And so this way, some thread of continuity will basically keep the torch alight from end to end of the relay. Yeah. So that, yeah, I tend to keep going off on these metaphorical tangents. So you should just feel free to cut me off anytime. What I'm going to do now is just please don't share any code or share actual solutions, but feel free to ask questions to your classmates. I know, right? I already know, right? I keep following, the logs. I get these notifications and shit like that, right? So I know a lot of you have actually progressed past Quest 6, okay? At least reading the spec for Quest 7. And so there are people in this class. And there are people that have just made a start after clearing duck, or just getting into duck, right, after clearing platypus, right? That's not an indication, right? Because I've had people who entered 2B, right, in week 7 after having done a great deal of work mastering blue first, right? And in week 7 after entering 2B, after adapting duck to platypus to duck, the rest of the climb was really cool, smooth. Not because of past course, even their own struggles, right? Even what they struggled with. If you look at the history of posts, you tend to find that people get bitten by bugs typically once or twice in their lives, right? Nobody, go to Reddit, right? Any user. We now have hundreds of users, right? So just pick any user and look at the past history, and you'll find that they've all been bitten by every single bug, right? Every single bug in 2A, 2B, and 2C, right? They've all been bitten. But what was I going with that? I don't know where I was going with that. Yeah. But anyway, I just saying that, yeah, they've all been bitten by that. So you should also, I think, at some point, when you get bitten by that, you just make and so you can you follow that progress, right? So yeah, that's right, 1 or 2 times, right? So you can actually say, well, that particular issue bit that person once, right? Very, very rarely you see the same bug with the same kind of person twice, okay? And say, well, you know what? I don't know, some other, and most of the time it's some other issue, right? Masquerading as a bug or something like that, and they find out and fix it. So where I was going with that is that once you, it's just a matter of when you face the bug, okay? So some people have to toil so hard, okay, that they have to face all of the million, well, I'm just putting a number on it, right? It's not 1 million, okay? They had to face all of the 1 million bugs in 3 months, okay? Meaning that's the equivalent of doing 2A, 2B, and 2C in 1 quarter. So you see, right? Because unless you see an evidence of doing that, that's okay, right? At the end, they came out with the same knowledge, but they just, went through a grueling way of getting the same knowledge, right? But your employer is not really looking for how quickly you can work, because people that work really quickly, they also get burnt out really quickly. And this is in fact one of the things that I told a really brilliant past student who I'm basically guiding through a project right now, and he's building something really cool, but he's suffering from burnouts, and so when I do have him, he's like brilliant, right? So he's thinking like 2 steps ahead of me all the time, and everything I say, bam, 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 right, like that. And then at the end of the day, I say, well, okay, well, let's say you complete these and get back to me, right? And then I think, well, in my mind, a competent engineer to complete those at the rate that he's been doing things, maybe 5 or 6 hours. So maybe tomorrow morning I get an email from him, right? But the thing is, I get an email from him like 3 days later or something like that, right? And sometimes there's even explanations for various things in his life that go, yeah, obviously, right? Various things in life that go wrong. So it says that's the reason I've not been able to do that. But and you know, and obviously that is true, maybe true in his case. But we just have to be very careful that anytime we have an explanation like that to a boss or a manager, the manager can tell if it is an explanation or an excuse. Okay, so and I guess, you know, once you start managing people, you probably know the difference between the two, right? An excuse is made by someone who's not vested in the project themselves, who are doing it for you. Yeah, saying, well, that's the reason I didn't get it done for you. An explanation is given by an employee who's actually vested in the project, saying, hey, yeah, that's really interesting. It didn't work, right? I expected it to work too. You know what? The reason it didn't work is because my sister came, right? And let's try and get it to, so now she's gone. Well, you know, she's going to be here for 2 more days, right? I can't wait to get back to it. So those, even though it's going to be, you know, 3 more days before that person gets back to it, right? Someone said, you know, my sister came, so that's why I didn't do it. But from tomorrow, I'll make sure I focus and get it done, right? So, and so this person is going to start tomorrow. But that person says, you know, I'll start 3 more days. I need 3 more days. So who would a good manager give that project to? Yes, think about it. Yeah, someone who's vested in the project, who says, the reason we do that is not because of good management practices or anything, right? So if we just sit down and think about it, I think I've found anyway, really, it just boils down to good sense and laziness. Because if you hire a good employee, you can be lazy and not have to think for them, right? You can say, this is the big picture, right? Get in and do it, right? As long as you know what the hell needs to get done, I can take a break and chill. Right? Because if the employee doesn't know what the hell needs to get done, you're going to micromanage them. That's a pain in the ass. So all good managers are looking for people that are basically vested in the project, right? So, and I think that is one of the ways in which later on, right, when you maybe handle, you know, you have to make technical hires, you can basically look at their profile on, ask them to solve all the quests. And then you can use that as if you're a C++, if you're looking for a C++ programmer, you can use that as a benchmark and saying, well, did you actually clear quest 9? Because after anyone who's done read quest 9, right, and I'm pretty sure is going to be a highly sought after C++ programmer. And the reason I say that is because when you want to hire someone, right, interviewing someone who's done read quest 9, you can focus all of your energy not on their technical abilities, because you know at that time they're already a rock star, right? And say, well, yeah, I know you're a rock star, so let's not focus on, you know, testing you for whether you know how to manage pointers in binary trees, right? So let's now find out what tickles your fancy. Right? So for the next couple of hours or over dinner or whatever it is, right, you're going to have discussions, right, and find out what excites you, what, you know, drives you, so that we can see that in our company we have, like, you know, 17 different directions, right? Or maybe you have many different directions, or maybe even you have a diffuse direction for researchers, right? So you have 17 different directions, and let me basically find out if the angle, the theta between your interest and the company's interest, you know, cos theta is as close to 1 as possible, so that the alignment can be, you know, maximized. Otherwise, you know, I'm not going to be able to hold on to you, so I'm not going to waste the time, right? Because you're going to be here, you're going to be unhappy, and you're going to leave, right? So I want you, but I want to be sure that you also want me. Otherwise, there's no point in either of us wasting energy, right? Because you're valuable and we're valuable, and we have to maximize the cost product, right? Or so I think that's that is the subconscious reasoning. I think, right? Even though managers may, you know, come up with 100 billion, you know, lame ass excuses for why they make their decision about employees, I think good managers, that's the intuition behind most of their reasoning, right? Maybe they're not willing to say that publicly, but I am, right? Because I've, you know, exited the field, but maybe good managers don't do that, and if they're competitive and things like that. But essentially, that's what they're doing. So be invested in whatever you're doing, right? So like I think in Shakespeare also, right? He's like, what is it? Leonardo? Is it Leonardo? No, that's Leonardo is much of it. Something else. Polonius, right? Yeah, be true to yourself. I don't know, something like that. Yeah, just follow your heart. and do things that you're interested in. That way you'll always be invested. And if you're invested in what you do, any expert in that field, they're going to be interested in getting your services, as long as it aligns, right? So they're going to be trying to find out. And once you've proved you're a rock star already, you don't have to waste time validating yourself, right? Even now, you shouldn't be validating yourself at all. You should be doing it for the fun. But if you're looking for validation or hires, you can use this as a freebie validation, right? So you don't have to look up there and say, well, you've done here, so maybe I've done it too, and you've done it too. Let's talk about some interesting things, right? And because there's so many interesting things in the specs, right? You can just talk about them, right? So you have an interview candidate who's done that. You can talk about those things too, and you can gauge, and also that the other person should know that it's not a technical probe. We're just trying to probe and come up with interesting questions so that we can gauge the level of overlap, right? And that way everybody will just open up and be honest, rather than trying to say, I've done this, and drop like 15 names. And who's looking for these things? Right? We just want to know. And then the reason, and the problem is that the culture is ingrained people to do that, right? So we need to break free and say, I don't care, right? I just need to know what you're interested in, right? I'm not interested in what you're good at, because if you're not good at what you do, we're not even having this conversation, right? Because we're having this conversation, now you can tell me what you're interested in. Now we can see if there's a good match, right? Otherwise, we'll just be friends. Yeah, that's a great conversation, isn't it? So you can just say, you can skip the hard part of the interview, because 90% of most of these interviews I see that people get, in my friends, just wasting pointless time, right? Wasting time, their interviewers' time, right? Having candidates solve dead-end problems on the whiteboard, right? Which have been solved like a million times before. And why not just screen them already, right? That's what a phone screen is technically supposed to do, right? But then because of these bars and things like that, you can't even hire. In the beginning, when you do a startup, you're only going to hire people you personally know. Like, I think Steve Jobs once said, only go for A people, because if you go for anything below A, that you can be guaranteed that person is going to hire someone that is beneath them. So it's going to have a descending slope from that point onwards, right? But as long as it's A, only A people will hire other A people, right? Because everybody else will be intimidated. So we just keep on going A, and I don't know where we're going with that. Yeah, essentially you can say, well, if you're A, then we can have a conversation. And the purpose of the conversation is not to see how good you are, because we know you're good, but just to see if you're basically an obnoxious asshole, or because there are lots of really brilliant people who are also obnoxious. Yes. And so we just want to say, and that's fine. You can be it, right? As long as you're not, beating your drum on someone else's door. You can be, in your own, home. You can be as nasty as you want without affecting other people, right? So living alone, that's fine. But I think that's what interviewers try and find, right? If we keep that in mind, would be good. Hey, someone said someone. I'm not following the chat. I'm sorry. Are there any questions that I have to answer in the chat? Well, I'm sorry. Okay, I shouldn't be. People are talking about things not to do with these things. So feel free to carry on. Just talk verbally, okay? And you can talk about quests, but don't share code. You can talk about concepts and things like that. I'm going to turn it off and just turn the laptop around so it's looking at the tree. Okay, is that good? Is that good? You can call me anytime. Okay, if you want to talk about concepts and the modules that you don't understand, that's fine too. You can call me, right? As long as we don't take time and talk about advanced stuff, I'm happy with that, right? We'll do that in 2C, right? We'll have another meeting like this in 2C, hopefully, and we'll see if we can cover advanced ground. Yes? All right, thanks. All right, so I'm going to turn off the chat. I'm not looking at the chat, okay? Even otherwise, I'm not looking at the chat, okay? And by the way, thank you for all of you, right? Doing a great job. And these interesting discussion starters, and so fantastic. All right, I'm very happy to see it. Right, in fact, I've been browsing Facebook less and less during quarter. Right, all these useless sites on the internet. You do it only when you're bored and have nothing else to do. And I found that if I track or if I look at my Apple history, I find that my Facebook time is actually directly related to my quarter time. And in quarter, I don't go to Facebook as often as during the quarter, because I found a lot of interesting, useful stuff just on our forums, right? Even Stack Overflow and other sites, if I just do a rank and a histogram and things like that, all these other entertainment sites, I don't feel a need to go to during the quarter when, just your posts are so interesting to look at, right? Valuable to look at. And then I do that only, during holidays sometimes. So thank you all for all of that. Okay, so just feel free to call me anytime. This is all being recorded. It is. Okay. So, gee, it's going to be recorded in the cloud. I think I didn't change it, which means that even though we now see this gallery with, a nice, all of your smiling faces, the Zoom stitching together algorithm in the cloud is different, because I did for 2A, I did an experiment, right? Recording in the cloud, even if you have gallery view like now, can you all see everybody or just the active speaker?
I think each person can change
Oh,
it.
change,
But, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's recording my screen, all right, in which I have gallery view. But if I do it in the cloud, you'll see when I post this video, it's recording, right? When I post this video, you'll see that it's only the active speaker, and then people come and go in little rectangles. So I'll change from next meeting onwards. From the next one, I'll change to record locally on my computer, so that we'll do the right thing and get everybody in the frame. But right now, you can actually grab the frame by saying something, right? Because I think speech detection algorithm will kick in and make you the active speaker. So even if someone else is talking, you can actually grab the screen by just talking, right? And then it just Zoom would do something, right? I don't know how quickly it does that. Actually, it should be able to do that, right? Because it can do all that offline, because it's got like 21 different video streams, right? And timestamps, right? And then the audio and things like that. So it can do a lot of things to figure out what frame needs to come up, right? So it can do all those really cool things. So yeah, okay. So feel free to do all those fun things here.
So I want to bring the Reddit post conversation that I'd started this morning here into the conversation. Ronaldo.
Did you want me to stay, or Ronaldo? Do you want me to stay, or shall I just turn around and give you guys the stage, right? Do you want me to stay, Ronaldo?
Yeah, sure.
No. Yeah. I'm going to watch in here, right? I don't want you to cramp. I don't want to cramp anyone's style. Yeah. So here's what I'll do. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll stop video sharing. Okay. And I'll basically listen to everything you say, but you shouldn't feel that I'm, evaluating you. So in fact, the only thing, I'll just stop video, right? I'll stop video. I'll keep the camera, the microphone on. And something like that. No, I'll just mute myself, and so I'm not in your face, okay? But I'll be watching. Thank you.
So I actually have a question, Professor.
Yeah, sure.
About not sharing code, right? So
Yeah.
of course we don't share solutions, right? But I wonder if for example, if I create a suite of tests, right?
You can totally share those things. Totally. Soshi, there was a past student called Soshi Cooper. Who also did the same thing for 2A, and she tried to do it for 2B also. No, what I mean by code is sharing just Quest code that worked.
Okay.
Because already it's too bad, right? Because people are just looking at the tip sheet and just doing everything that you spent like 3 days learning or something, whatever it is, right? And then if you paste the code, they're gonna say, I failed that Quest only because my copy paste didn't work. Right?
No, I was trying to answer somebody's question on Reddit and trying to go around, beating around the bush, the best way would be I tested with this suite of tests and it passed, right?
Oh,
and
totally, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
I would love that. In fact, if you have a Git repo, right? You put it there and just link students to it.
Okay.
Do you have a Git repo or something like that? Or some public place?
Not on my local machine. I create a Git repo and commit locally to my own machine, but not public.
I think GitHub is free now. It's free. Private is free too, I think. So if you want, you can create a private only and share it only with our classmates or ones who want a link.
Okay.
Or you can do whatever you want. I'm just tossing ideas around. I think a lot of people will benefit from that, not just our current students, but really, it shouldn't be for posterity, right? This is next quarter, someone else to do the same thing you did, right? Create their own test suite, right? And I think that would be much better. So go ahead, do whatever you want to do.
So I wanted to say, very nice background, Ronaldo. I love it. You were talking about
Skyrim. It looks like a Skyrim background.
Elden Ring's background.
Oh, it's Lord of the Rings.
Elden Ring.
I
It's
don't
a new
know.
game. It's gonna come up by end of February, I think.
Oh, is it a successor to the Skyrim series? Is it in the Skyrim
It's
series?
from the same people that did Dark Souls.
Oh, I see. Wow. I don't know. I'm not following these in any great detail. You know, some of these I really remember because when I used to play these games, some of these really made an impression on me, like that one and even Crisis, because they were the first to come up with some of these effects, and it's really nice things. So anyway, we shouldn't take up your time talking about your stuff, you know, nonsense like that. Okay, so I'm going to turn around. No, I'm just going to mute my video, right? And I'm going to check my bread, but I'll listen. Okay, thank you so much, all of you.
So the conversation we were having on the Reddit is centered around this last test, and everything locally works for me. And I'm speaking of Mina, by the way, the third. Everything locally works just fine. I looked at the I'm sorry, I looked at the suite of examples suggested. There's a Stanford link, and when I run the tests locally, every one of them comes out exactly as expected, but I don't pass the auto grader. And I'm really struggling with that. You know, that last one is required for getting the password to the next. So I can't start working on 4 until I sort this out.
This is Mina, right?
Yeah.
Or Mina or Mina, I don't know. Okay.
And I'm pretty much at my wit's end. It works locally, doesn't seem to throw any errors, and I don't know what else to do.
Okay. So okay, so going off the whole so do you look at Riley's post about, you know, large vectors and conversions of large bit vectors?
Conversion of large bit vector. Can you explain
Yeah,
more about what's going on there?
I replied to your latest message.
Alexa, stop the timer.
Right, yeah, I see that. But I don't quite understand where that's happening in the code. So you're referring to a large vector of integers, right? That's the data structure we're using. And so you're saying that the problem may come in when we're dealing with a very large generation.
Yes.
So it would be a very large vector of integers.
Yes.
I suppose that could be, but I tested up to 400 generations in some of these cases, and nothing ever was an issue, and everything turned out fine.
I'm looking at my code here. Get first n generations, generation to string. Let me see where this goes. So, okay. So when you're running this locally, does the print work correctly up to 400 generations, or just the code itself? Can you print?
I can output up to 400 generations. Okay. Not up to, but that's as far as I felt was reasonable to test.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, I might have missed, but did you say what sort of error you were getting when you were doing it in the auto grader?
The auto grader said, ouch, I got thrown an exception. It bit my donkey. It ain't no fun.
Yeah,
and with no data returned or any context for what was going on. You know, it would be really lovely to see what exception occurred, but that's not there.
I think I had a pretty similar thing actually, and I believe it had to do with some of my conditionals, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember right now because it's been a couple of days since I worked on that, but I would double check the quest, the spec for the conditionals. I'm not sure which function was. But there was one where I just did an if statement incorrectly and I got the same thing, I'm pretty sure.
I can make another pass at it, but what I'm struggling with is the code works. If an exception is thrown, then that would mean that it does not work. And well.
And you've tested sort of like extremes and everything, because it might be one of those things where, you he's testing it for if you input a wrong thing and making sure your code can handle that. So that's where my thing, my thing worked on my local, but then obviously when the autograder ran some, extreme cases, then it was throwing errors just because my conditionals weren't checking for it properly.
I think I have. Can you give an example of one that you missed the first time around?
Yeah, I
were
can look
initially writing?
into it. I'll get back in like 2 minutes. I'll just have to look through my code real quick.
I was just looking at my output for on the questing site, and I believe the test after make next gen is generation to string, not the get first and gens.
Right. So generation to string,
So you're saying there will be a test complete if you finish generation to string? Is that what you said?
Yes, I'm just looking at the list of trophies I got. It goes make next gen, generation to string, and then get first and generations. So I think from your post you were saying you thought the issue was in get first and generations, but it might be you might want to check out generation to string. I don't know.
That sounds like some wonderful information. That really narrows it down.
yeah, there is generation to string, then you get the password, and then there's another test, right?
Okay, all right.
And going back to Walter's comment, maybe one edge case would be, what if the canvas is not an odd number, if it's an even number, or something to do with zero. I think in one of the methods you consider zero to be even,
One
but
says zero is okay, and the other one is zero is
yeah,
probably
exactly.
not okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was looking over, and that's what it was. It was my if the first if statement they use in make next generation. I just had my my ors and my ands not correctly to the quest spec, and that's why the error was thrown. So I would double check those, but it sounds like maybe your problem is something else.
Yeah, I'll spend a few minutes right now looking through and making sure that string generation is right.
Yeah, I mean, I got bit, not so much in the latest test, but in translate n bits starting at. So there were I got a few problems where translating n bits starting at, the start at was at the end, was the end itself, right? So basically you got to start at in the end, it is the end, right? And it took me a while to figure that out and take care of it.
The way the rules bits were organized, that took a while. That was a bit strange, getting it one way and then the other.
Right. And then in generation to string, there is one check whether even or odd. Yeah, I don't think there is. And there's the pad. You have to take care of the pad, whether your width is more than the length as already exists, and then you pad. Otherwise, you raise everything and you raise everything and remove the pad. I mean, there's just like a couple of ifs in generation to string to take care of these kind of weird cases.
What do you think should happen if the generation that's provided is wider than the width? I don't think it specifies what you do there. So would you be throwing an error or truncating the outsides?
The generation,
Pretty sure you just print the middle through to the entire, so you print the middle going left and right until you hit the width.
So so I don't know how much this can help you. These are the tests that made me pass, right? Get all the trophies, right? Again, I created a class test, create some methods that, because class test is a friend of, automaton. Then I created all these kinds of tests. I use a lot of assert, so it barfs whenever something's wrong. So after all these tests, then it passes, right? Then I get everything.
Yeah, I made a friend test class myself for most of the stuff. So implementing something like this should be pretty simple.
So I don't know, I can send you my test. I don't know, maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't.
I'd like that personally, yeah. If not for this, then it'll be just a good reference for, design for their tests in the next one.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes it's hard. I mean, somebody has a problem. The problem is that if I go back to the questing website and roll back my git commits and submit again, then the number of trophies go back to, that's some, I guess, enhancements that the linear quest website could have. Like once you get all the trophies, you could go back to experiment again without your trophies going down. But that happens, right? So I went to help somebody and said, and then I rolled back, submitted again. Then it went from, I don't know, just for the sake of discussion, 30 trophies to 10, right? Then I need to go back again and submit it again, right? So.
Oh, sorry, can you guys hear me? I have a question about Quest 2, and that I didn't quite understand the need to clear every time the number of disks goes up. So I know it's in the module, but I didn't quite understand what does it do to the program itself. Can someone explain?
Can you repeat the question, please?
So in Quest 2, you need to clear the cache every time the number of disks goes up. And I didn't quite understand why we need to do that. It's in its instruction, but I don't know why that we need to clear, since I think it's better to keep them. So later when we access to it, we have the direct response instead of going through the calculation again. Am I being clear?
The reason why you want to clear the lower level cache,
Right.
is a lot of it becomes not as useful. There might be one or two solutions at any given disk, but because you have the data for the one that's just below, that's a majority of the calculation that's going to be done. If you're going, like, say from 30 to 31, most of the solution has already been done, and you store that 30, but you don't need 29 to 0.
Okay, thank you. I think that made sense. I was confused. Thank you.
Are you guys still here?
Yes.
So guys, I guess I see you guys a bit later. Take care.
Thanks for the help.
Take care. Have you made any progress, Nathaniel?
Not quite yet. I mean, I'm adding in a conditional for whether the string, if the generation is wider, and so I'm taking the middle part from that. I'll have that complete in a few minutes.
Gotcha. Yeah, I realized actually the device I was giving you on about the conditionals, that wasn't for the because I recognized the error you were talking about. That wasn't for that. I actually got that error because of not resizing in get the next generation. I forget what it's called. Make next gen. I just wasn't resizing it correctly, and that's why I was getting the exception. So maybe look at that too. But other than that, I don't think I have much more to offer.
I think the resizing is probably okay if I can, like, if I can generate things that seem to be working just fine. I think I just need to take care of edge cases, like when the width is small. I don't think I tested whether the width was smaller or not. I kind of just didn't consider it, and it's probably it. So I'll let you all know.
The last thing I'll say actually is just making sure when you do the conditionals for if it's even, to make sure you combine that correctly with whether or not it's zero.
Exactly, yeah. I ran into that pretty early on.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. Except for that, I think I'll head out. So good luck.